So I rented the FX3 this past weekend because I wanted to do a comparison between the FX30 and the FX3 and see if there was really such a distinguishable difference between these two cameras. To determine which one is right for me, which one should I invest in, should I dive right in and get the FX3, or should I save a little bit of money and go with the FX30? And after using it this past weekend, I can honestly say I still have no idea. So welcome to the channel and the video where I try to figure out which camera to buy in 2023. The FX3, the FX30. Of course, I can point out the fact that the FX3 is a full frame camera versus the FX30 being Super 35, which means that you are going to sacrifice a few areas, but are they drastic enough to make the difference? For me, in my opinion, no, they are not. Because let's face it, if they were, no one would ever buy an APS-C camera. So what's the big difference between full frame versus APS-C? Well, with full frame, you're getting better ISO performance, better low light, better overall image quality, and that bokeh be bokehing. Basically, the depth of field is better. Your blurry background be blurrier. Crushed it. Okay. Now, it is important to note that yes, while full frame has a lot of benefits, it doesn't diminish the value and versatility that you can get out of these APS-C or Super 35 cameras. I used the GH5, which is micro four thirds, and the C100, which is Super 35, for years in my business. And I didn't have couples come in my door with pitchforks trying to banish me from society because of it. And it doesn't mean that these cameras are any less professional just because they are APS-C. And I know that's a subjective stance when it comes to the topic of APS-C versus full frame, but hey, maybe I feel like starting some shit this week.
Watch your profanity.
But let's compare a few things with the FX3 and the FX30. One of them is the battery life. For some reason, I had a little bit better battery life experience with the FX3 versus the FX30. I'm not entirely sure why that is, but it was better.
It's true.
For the FX3, I only went through 1.5 batteries before the ceremony and really used 3 throughout the entire day, which for me is a huge win, opposed from the FX30 where I felt like I was using like 4 or 5 batteries and it wasn't even a reception yet. I don't know. But you can always add additional battery support with these cameras if you wanted to extend the longevity of your battery life. So for me, it's just like, weighing apples and oranges when it comes to battery life. As I grow as a filmmaker, I'm just valuing and, really gravitating more towards the less is more mindset and being more minimal. I just need a tool that's lightweight, that's compact, and that can really help me elevate my production value with ease. And I honestly love the direction that Sony is heading with these cinema cameras, and I'm excited for what they do next with the FX lineup because they are insanely functional, and really the only downside and things that I feel might be missing from cameras like this is built-in Ds. Coming from the C100s and the C70 and all of Canon cinema line that have that included, and even the FX6 and higher end Sony cinema cameras, it just seems like, man, that would be so incredible for the next addition to these cameras. And I definitely foresee that being another added feature for future cameras down the road. I think one of the biggest selling points, at least in my opinion, is the functionality of both the FX3 and FX30. I mentioned this briefly in my FX30 video, but the button layout itself is something that I really enjoy because there isn't a ton of customizations that you really have to worry about right out of the box. Every button is intentionally placed and easily accessible, with record, iris, white balance, ISO all being on top of your camera. And then on the back side of your camera, you have peaking, you have focus mag, and you have zebras, which are all video-centric functions that you need as a video creator, and it's all easily accessible on this camera. It makes it super simple for the first-time user to grab this camera and start creating right out of the box. In-body stabilization is another huge selling point, and both of these cameras have it, and they're both incredible. They are essentially the same thing. Along with Cine EI mode, which another huge added bonus of these cameras, and especially if you are a first-time log user, this is a great way to jump into that realm of shooting in log and navigating this function in a seamless way. I will say one customization that I did add on the FX3 was the use of base ISO switch. So this allowed me to switch ISOs at the click of a button because when you are shooting in log, if you're using Cine EI, you only have 2 functions. You have the 800 base ISO or the 12,800. And this allowed me to switch between the two at just the click of a button. So I really didn't have to worry about my ISO throughout the whole day until I got to the reception. The only thing I really had to worry about was either my shutter speed, aperture, or my white balance. And so that allowed me to really be focused in on what I was creating and being able to really perfect my image because I wasn't worried about other settings like the ISO. Now, the FX30. Now, what limitations do you really have with this camera versus the FX3? Sure, the ISO performance won't be as strong. Sure, the low light capability. Sure, you'll lose a little bit of depth of field. You do have a crop factor at 1.5. You do have an additional crop if you shoot in 120. But personally, I never shoot in 120, so that doesn't really affect me. So do these losses really affect your creative capabilities? No, because at the end of the day, these are just tools. We use these tools and what they offer to our advantage. Use the crop sensor to get a longer focal length during the ceremony, or for additional shots of B-roll throughout the wedding day. Use the FX30 during those well-lit parts of the day, and then switch to a camera that has better low-light performance. So what really is the deciding factor? $1,800 versus a $4,000 camera, beautiful 4K 10-bit quality up to 60 frames a second, video-centric features, the functionality, the versatility, the ergonomics. All of these things are included in the FX30 as well as the FX3. You just have to really ask yourself, 1, how will this camera make me a better storyteller? And 2, will this camera make my life any easier? Because if you have to invest in a whole new set of lenses, memory cards, hard drives, if you have to get a new computer to be able to handle all of these files, then chances are this is not making your life easier, it's just making it more complex. And just adds to the constant stress of what you think you need to serve your couples well and create beautiful art. And honestly, the truth is what I've discovered battling through the years on which camera do I buy, which camera do I invest in? The truth is neither of them. At least that's the conclusion that I've come upon myself. I don't need these cameras at all. I have the A7S III, I have the A7 IV, I have a GH5 that is 100% still relevant in 2023 and produces 4K 10-bit quality that is perfect for an additional ceremony angle. And God forbid as a backup, if any of my other cameras crap out on me, I know that I'm still covered because I have a quality cam in the GH5. I just honestly have a nasty habit of wanting to buy new things in order to reignite my creativity or feel like I am more professional or put together than I truly am. And my goal with any camera review or video isn't to force you into making an impulsive decision. It's honestly just to give you perspective into making an informed one. So I guess that's what I've concluded. Both of these cameras are great. They are just beautiful options if you are looking for a solid, reliable, trustworthy, versatile, functional, good quality camera in 2023. It's just a matter of deciding how much you're willing to invest. If this is going to make your life easier, that includes if you are due for an upgrade, if you're shooting on like a Canon T2i, or if you're shooting on a point and shoot and you've been shooting on that for 5 years and now you're ready to make the jump. Okay, go with the FX3. Go with whatever you want at that point. So there's a lot of different factors and circumstances that really determine which camera is truly right for you in this day and age. And honestly, you can look anywhere, you can look at any corner on any shelf, and you can find a reliable option that's shooting good quality. It's all about the tool that you decide to use. It's all about what just fires you up as a creative, as a filmmaker. So don't get lost in the trenches. Don't get just so bogged down by the particulars. Just focus on what's right in front of you and what's going to help you achieve your goals for this year. I feel like that was just like a therapy session. So that's it. That's been my video on the FX3 versus the FX30. Which one should you get in 2023? Hopefully that was helpful and valuable in some way. Or if you're just as confused as you were when starting this video, I apologize. But thank you guys so much again for sticking around. I really appreciate it. And until next time, keep creating and telling beautiful stories. Peace.